So I didn't know whether it was true or not. It seemed so odd. And there's hardly any conversation about it. There's hardly anything on the news about it. So I asked Grok to be sure, but it turns out it actually is true. Here's what Grok said. Yes, the information about the IRS's guidance on the $7,500 EV tax credit, allowing eligibility through a binding contract and payment secured by September 30th, even for deliveries afterward, is a confirmed fact based on recent official IRS clarifications under Public Law 119-21, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025. So, this is really, really good news. People can now, instead of having to take delivery by September 30th, which everybody, I think, including Elon Musk and everybody at Tesla, thought was going to be the case because they've really been pushing the September 30th date as you must take delivery by. All of a sudden, no, that's just not true. You can order it on September 30th, give earnest money, even a trade-in is my understanding. The trade-in would act as earnest money. And that would be a deal. And you could take delivery, weeks later. Now that is potentially a very big piece of news, and yet it's just not being reported. I mean, I saw it, I think one article, period, anywhere, and really not that much about it on X. And why is it huge? All right, first of all, that means they're going to sell a lot more cars. So we've got I would think, and somebody suggested actually on X, that Elon, this is one of those cases where he should spend some money to advertise and promote it, take advantage of the situation, because now we're talking about as many cars as they could possibly sell by the end of September to take delivery later. What the heck? That's a very, very good thing. It also will probably mean that the Model Q rollout will be delayed. They won't need the Model Q. They won't have space maybe to make the Model Q during at least October, maybe November, maybe even December. So it might be pushed all the way until next year because they'll be selling lots and lots and lots of Model Ys, Model 3s, etc. It also means it'll dramatically reduce the risks that Elon talked about in terms of having 3/4 of, choppy, he called it choppy for the next 3/4. Well, this should make at least the fourth quarter extremely strong. And by taking the fourth quarter out of that mix and pushing everything into the first quarter, meaning the Model Q, etc., I think that could mean that first quarter could be strong too. Maybe the second quarter is still a little bit dicey, but by the second quarter, you're probably making quite a few semi-trucks, and you've got your factory down in Houston making the megapacks. You're probably fully up 100% with megapacks in Shanghai. I mean, I think this could eliminate that choppiness. We'll see what other people think, but that's what I'm thinking. Anyway, that is what I'm looking at. So this is from Phil Beisel. If you didn't watch his show this morning, no, that was last night. If you didn't watch that show last night, do not. I'm going to put the card up later, but you don't write it down. Make yourself a note. You need to go back and watch it because Phil broke news, significant news last night. It's about AI. It'll impact Tesla, but it's about AI, and it's about something that for me was brand new. I'm pretty sure that you haven't heard it yet. I'm like 99% sure you have not heard this yet about how AI is going to be in the not too distant future. That's going to be crazy useful. And that's last night with Phil Beisel. Then again, this morning, I had a show with Cern Basher. Cern Basher also broke news. That's another show that you should definitely go back and watch, because we talked about 3 different ways that Tesla's profits are going to be way bigger than people think they're going to be in 2026. Yeah, if you watch this show all the time, you've heard me talk about one of them, but the other 2, no. Those are 2 new ones that we talked about last night. You definitely want to go back and watch that. So I know I don't usually push the other shows this early in this show, but these are really, really startlingly good. I'll put both cards up in a minute. All right. So FSD version 14, according to Phil Beisel, FSD version 14 is effectively unsupervised. what the purist will refer to as SAE level 5. He says when the SAE comes out with its 6 levels of driving automation, it was never meant to be an engineering syllabus. It was just taxonomy, a way to describe capabilities. But legacy automakers, true to form, treated it like the Holy Scripture. Mercedes, GM, and the rest acted if they had to climb the ladder rung by rung, dutifully shipping level 2 so that someday maybe they could earn their way up to level 3. Tesla didn't waste time with any of that. Tesla never played that game. Elon's target was autonomy from day one, not level 3, not level 4, just autonomy, a car that drives itself, period. Nothing, he says, kills innovation faster than worshiping a standards document. To build a product roadmap around SAE levels is not engineering. It's bureaucratic cosplay. It's your engineering team operates this way. He says if your engineering team is operating that way with that kind of a mentality, it's not really an engineering team at all. It's a program management office better suited to running a tier 1 supplier contract than creating breakthrough technology. And here's the punchline for the SA level lovers. No, not one US regulation, none. Not one of any of the states, none of the states actually references SAE levels as binding law. Regulators measure crashes, safety outcomes, and data. They don't care if you got the right level sticker on your box. Reach for the stars, you might get to autonomy. Reach for level 2 and you'll be stuck there forever, buried in user interfaces and program requirements designed to appease a standard that never mattered. Sawyer Merritt has this today. He says, Tesla spotted doing robotaxi validation testing in Bee Cave, Texas, about 15 miles west of Austin, or a 20 to 25-minute drive from the current edge of the geofence. Okay, so spreading out that geofence. Mario Knopfel says this. He says, Tesla robotaxi set to splash. Tesla robotaxi set to slash Waymo on cost. Tesla Cybercab could run dirt cheap, he says, 30 to 50% less per mile than Waymo. This is what I've been saying all along. Where have you been, Mario? You only have to watch the show, Mario. The breakdown, he says, in-house hardware, no LiDAR baggage, no middleman stacking insurance and depreciation. Rock bottom costs at scale equals brutal math for rivals. He says if the math holds, robotaxi doesn't just edge out Waymo, it rewrites urban transport economics. But boy, Mario, I'm sorry, I'm repeating this because it's important to keep in mind, and some of you guys are new, but I've been reporting this for, I don't know, maybe since the book, since the Elon Musk mission, since before I started this show. Yun Ta Sai, number 1, that's YUNTA TSAI 1. It's the number 1. Elon did label cuboids. So Elon is labeling cuboids rather, using the tool that we gave him late last night. And he did it from late last night to sunrise just to understand the bottleneck that we were having over at XAI. Then he asked everyone the next day, he says, did they label, how many are they able to label in a certain time period? And he kind of set a quota so that everybody would feel the same pain that he did by speeding it up to maximum. He says within weeks, our tooling was drastically improved. So there you go. There's Elon, right? And Tesla owners Silicon Valley. Says Elon Musk doesn't just lead; he gets into the trenches, even annotating data himself to understand the system. Mario Knopfel again says Elon drops Macrohard to crush Microsoft. Elon just unveiled a new AI venture, a new business called Macrohard. It is going to be a division of XAI. So it's not a separate, it's a separate corporation, but it will be owned 100% by XAI. And according to Mario Knopfel, it's not a joke. He says, Tied to xAI startup, Macrohard will spawn hundreds of coding and generative AI agents designed to stimulate Microsoft's software empire entirely through AI. Elon said it's a tongue-in-cheek name, but the project is very real. The plan leans on xAI's Colossus supercomputer in Memphis, stacked with millions of NVIDIA GPUs, not yet, will be eventually millions of NVIDIA GPUs as the AI arm race heats up. Well, Microsoft, you just met your sharpest rival yet. Now, what does this mean? Well, if you want to know what it means, you probably, I'm going to try my best to tell you what it means. What it means is in theory, they would create a virtual company. This company's going to be virtual. It will have an owner, which will be a human, which will be Elon or xAI, if you will, but it will prompt the computer to do everything. So there will be maybe a vice president, and the vice president will be a computer, will have the capability of getting a whole bunch of agents to go out and do things for it. So the vice president will hire these agents. These agents might be agents within the xAI system, or they might be outside the xAI system, but the vice president, who's not a human, this vice president would be able to go find them and go, oh, here's a tool, this is the tool I need, and then go out and what? And go out and send it out its agents to go subscribe for the tools that it needs or buy the tools that it needs in order to make whatever the next step is. So then this vice president would end up hiring somebody that would do HR and somebody that would do product development and somebody that would do design and somebody that would do engineering, et cetera. But these would all be agents. And all of these agents then would have the ability to hire other agents. Are you following me? Is this crazy or what? Okay, that's about as deeply as I understand it. But that is a whole nother level. Okay. And again, I don't think any of us are thinking about that. I certainly wasn't. I don't think Brian Wang was. I don't think Nicholas Gibbs. I don't think Nick Gibbs was thinking about it. Now, I'll have to ask Nicholas on Tuesday because he might be because of some of his connections. But I just think that's absolutely crazy. We'll see what happens with that. By the way, this is Randy Kirk. And yes, I am going to write another book. We're in the middle of it. We're almost done. In fact, we're going to be done with the entire first draft by the end of this week. And next Friday, Saturday, 100% done with the first draft, and then we'll be sending it out to those lovely people, over 100 people that said, yes, I'm interested in being a reader of your book before it goes to press. So we'll be going out to those readers, and then around the middle of September, we'll start providing the preview sales on Amazon. So look forward to that. Hit like, subscribe, and notify, and join Patreon. There's going to be some, you can imagine, there's going to be some Patreon deals for people that want to get free books and whatnot. All right. Look, we generally ascribe an economic philosophy to the president that's in office, right? So, you got Bidenomics and, of course, obviously had Reaganomics. What do we call it for Obama? Obamonomics? I'm not sure, but it's always going to have, the specific president getting these economic periods named after them. Well, Trumponomics also doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it might have to do. I don't know what else you're going to call it. I suspect that many economists today have absolutely zero desire to give Trump his due in this regard. They don't want to call it Trumponomics. They don't want to understand it. They don't want to, give it context. They don't want to create a paradigm and say, this is what he's doing, and this is why we think it'll work or why we don't think it'll work. In Reagan's case, they thought he was a complete clown, even though he'd run a union, he'd had a ranch he'd run, and he also was he had run a state for 8 years, way better than Newsom ever did. And so even though he had tremendous amounts of that type of background, they thought he was a clown, but Reaganomics has become famous. Well, Trump has a bigger background by far than Reagan, and they consider him to be not sophisticated with regard to economics, but that's not what you hear from the people who are sophisticated. So what is Trumponomics? I said, okay, the economists maybe aren't going to do this. I'm going to do it. So here's my first analysis. Here's my draft version. And I want you to help me with that. I want you to tell me what I got right and wrong. Number one, Wall Street, which includes the asset class folks and the professional class folks, have had their turn for the last 40 years or longer. Now it's time to give the working poor and the middle class their time in the sun. So that's the first principle. Second of all, the way to do that, there's a couple of different things that need to be done to get there. And the first thing is to onshore manufacturing and level the entire playing field for goods and services worldwide. This is being done with those tariffs. And of course, tariffs can be used for revenue. They can be used for protectionism in order to help those people get those jobs, and also as bargaining chips to get other things done. And a bunch of economists and other people, people that are trying to understand what's going on, have asked, which one is Trump trying to do? Is he trying to get revenue? Is he trying to do protectionism, or is he trying to use it as a bargaining chip? And I've been saying for months, I think I said it for the first time 6 months ago, I guess, probably around April 2nd. I said it then, and I've said it over and over again. No, he's trying to do all three, and trying to do all three actually simultaneously, and he's pulling it off, which is crazy. So part two of this, again, remember, we're trying to help the working poor and the middle class. We're trying to help them get ahead. So part two, you got to get rid of inflation. And Trump understands, as I've been saying on this channel for months and months and years, inflation is really just comprised of two components: the productivity of the workforce and the amount of money in the system that's created by the central banks, created by the government. He's using a combination of increasing revenues in the Treasury, reducing the size of government spending, and lowering interest rates in order to get the deficit down to around 3% of GDP, or even ultimately to balance the budget. And that's already working. It's already happening. The numbers came out the other day, even from the Congressional Budget Office, that we're looking at $4 trillion in tariffs over 10 years. And that's going to really, really help the budget. Now, if successful at doing those things that I just mentioned, then the real wages of workers will increase, as it did during his first term and has already been happening during his second term, and wasn't happening over the last 40 years, except during his first term and already during his second term. Every other president, the average real wages went down or were flat. So he also passed, another thing he did was pass this omnibus bill, which was designed to increase U.S. business, to grow business through the tax breaks that were given, but also which would create more jobs, and that would give employees more bargaining power because there's more jobs. And then he fulfilled his promise to reduce taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security. All of these will also be stimulative and will put more money in the hands of those three sets of individuals. Then, in addition, next step, he closed the border and is sending home the worst first, and then many others are self-deporting and other people are being deported. This also increases the bargaining power of the folks that are left back behind. The citizens now have more bargaining power, and we're already seeing this happen. We're seeing that the new jobs are being picked up by citizens, whereas for the last 4 years, they were being picked up by immigrants, illegal and legal. With lower interest rates now, that's going to happen, right? We got the word on that the other day, but they're already coming down even before Friday. With lower interest rates and higher wages, then more middle-class folks should be able to afford homes. But he says that he plans to work also on other capitalistic methods for making more affordable homes available. And one of those will be to sell prime urban and suburban government property to developers. He's also talking about maybe putting some new cities out into some areas that are, not suburban and urban, but which would be creating entire new cities. Small cities, probably. Then he's finally reducing crime through deporting criminal aliens and having the FBI loaded for bear, and they've already arrested 4 of the top 10 most wanted, which is the same amount that Biden arrested over his entire 4 years in office. You can tell right now that there's a big push by Trump to reduce the crime across the country, to reduce homelessness. And all of that is going to help businesses to prosper and allow the citizenry to feel more confident about going about their daily tasks. All right, that is Trumponomics as I am outlining at this early point in his tenure. What did I miss in that? What did I misunderstand something? Is there something that you would add? Is there something you would subtract? Do you think I'm off base? Do you think anyway, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, speaking of over delivering, way over and above promises, because a lot of that stuff wasn't in the promises. Many of it was. Many things that I just described were things that he promised to do. But in addition to that, listen to David Sacks. David Sacks says, by the way, David Sacks, which is SACKS, not SACHS, David Sacks 47. Congrats to 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐲. We've heard about 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐲 before. He's now the first Chief Design Officer of the United States. In this newly created role, 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐲 will oversee the redesign of roughly 26,000 federal web portals, many of which are obsolete. So they will better serve Social Security recipients, veterans, and all citizens when people go to government websites and government portals in order to do business. And like he says, many of these are ancient, almost useless, do not use current technology. And now 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐲 is now in charge of that. Elon congratulated 𝐄𝐦 on the new position. And he's was the former co-founder of Airbnb, and he could have done anything next, but he decided to volunteer his time and expertise to public service. And then Sacks says, thank you, 𝐄𝐦, and thank you to President Trump for creating this new function by executive order and continuing to attract the best talent from the private sector to join his administration. And Sacks says it's an honor to be a part of it. All right, so that's what I've got for you today. As I mentioned, I'm going to put those two cards up. Believe me, you want to go back. If you've got, one of them is long, maybe both of them are 45 minutes. I don't know. They're both like, you got to watch them. I'm not playing. So I'll put both cards up. Go back and check those out. Later on tonight, we will have Brian Wang. And Brian Wang, we will be doing something on semi-trucks, which is, there's a lot of, you might have seen, he's done a couple of things on semi-trucks over the last few days. Anyway, you'll know right away if you've already seen this. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but if you haven't seen it, it's amazing, just absolutely amazing. Let's see, how will I tease this? Would you believe that semi-trucks could be as big a deal as robotaxis? How's that for a tease? If you don't believe it, watch that coming up at 7:45 tonight. Okay, I think that's all I've got for you right now. And all the regular stuff tomorrow. And it's been great talking to you.